Good morning, girls. Welcome. We are filming today from our new building at the old AEC building. We haven't named it yet, so we just don't know what to call it. But we've been meeting here all this week for prayer, and some of you have maybe joined us here. And it's just been so lovely to gather again together. And just from the onslaught, I just wanted to say that Sisterhood is back. And next week, what will be really nice is that one of us will be here speaking, and you are going to be welcome to come and join us. We can have up to 50 people in this room. We will have to take a register when you come, but we're excited to have you, and we'll put out more information about that next week. But next week we will be here, and we just want to welcome you now in your own living room, wherever you are. Welcome. So today, a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about dreaming, and I was talking about, what happens when you have dreams and then you go into a lockdown? Does God still work in your lockdown? And we were talking about that. And as soon as I finished speaking that day, I really felt a prompting that I had something else to share about dreams. And of course, last week we had Priscilla. So this is kind of like part 2 of what I shared a couple weeks ago. Dreams are images that we have. They are things that we can have daydreams during the day where we imagine and our mind goes different places. We can also have night dreams, and where we think about different things. Sometimes our night dreams are great. Sometimes they're pretty awful. Sometimes I wake up and I'm so glad my dreams didn't come true. But if you ask a child what they would like to be when they're older, they come up with so many colorful ideas. I want to be a football player. I want to be a basketball player. I want to be a ballerina. I want to be, on the X Factor. They always have dreams. Children love to dream, and they love to dream and imagine what their future is. And if you ever speak to a child who has no dreams, that's always a sign that actually there's been some kind of trauma, because it's natural for children to dream. And as God's children, as God's girls, it's natural for us to dream God dreams. And so today I just wanted to recap what I had shared a couple weeks ago, and then we're going to be speaking about this new thing. We spoke about Joseph, and Joseph was a young boy from a godly family. But when he got his dream as a 17-year-old, it was squashed. He had proclaimed his dream, and the atmosphere was wrong. And the Lord removed him from that atmosphere and took him into lockdown. And he got his dream when he was 17 years old, but it was going to be another 22 years in God's timing when his dream was going to be fulfilled. And I just think it's quite amazing that, for those 22 years, he was living in his own lockdown. And I wonder if he must have thought so many times what was happening with the dreams God had given him. But God never forgets the dreams. He has plans for those dreams, and his timing is never our timing. And we looked at Joseph, that during that waiting season of his life, he stayed focused and he stayed dependent on God. He proclaims God to wherever he is. If he's in the palace, if he's serving as a servant, if he's in the jail, he is talking about God, and he is living out his life. He's maybe not able to attend church because he was living in a foreign land, but he was living out church for all to see. And we looked at how Joseph didn't allow his feelings and life's difficult circumstances to derail him from the promises that God had spoken over his life. And we saw that he made positive declarations, and he never allowed, in that season of wait, to allow himself to become bitter. And whatever man had done to him, he was able to turn it around and say, but God has kept me for it. Today, I wanted to speak about what happens when dreams don't work out. What happens, when there's a failing in your dreams? Are we able to dream again? And I just wanted to say, when our dream ends, does it mean, and when our dream ends and we still have so much of life to do, does it mean that God's forgotten about us? Does it mean that we have walked out of his will? Does he give us the ability to dream again? And so that's what I wanted to speak about today. And the first thing I wanted to speak about is dreaming after failure. And some of us, it is like that. It is dreaming after failure. Sometimes, we have great plans. We start off well. I think myself, every year I start off with New Year's resolutions, and I write all these plans I'm going to have, these dreams I'm going to do. And by January, February, and then suddenly by March, they're all forgotten about. And then we beat ourselves up. We think, oh my goodness, I failed yet again. I'm going to have to wait again until next year. But God would say, don't worry about that. Let your failure be, just declare your failure, and let me show you how to live and how to dream again. I wanted to look at the life of Moses, just briefly for this thing. What happens when you've let God down? What happens when you've said, I want to do things, I want to dream for you, God, and he lets you down, and you let yourself down, and then you feel you've let God down, and then you just think, well, there's just no point, I'm always back at this again. Maybe you've given up on your dream, but I wanted to talk about Moses. And we find Moses as this baby that's been born into this godly family. And he has been born into a very difficult season of life where the Pharaoh was killing babies. I'm not going to go through the whole story, but Moses was rescued by his mom, and she was able to look after him, and then eventually he went into Pharaoh's palace. And for those 2 or 3 years, Jochebed spoke wonderful things over her son. She breathed God's dreams in them. She told him that he was a special child. She made positive declarations to him, and then she sent him off. And we then find Moses for spending the next few years of his life until he's an adult. He grew up in the palace. He grew up with the best of education. He grew up with the Egyptian culture. He grew up in an ungodly world. But Moses had a dream that his mom had breathed into him, and he had it nurtured there. And then we find Moses, he comes out and he's excited, he's wonderful, he's walking around, and it says he went over to his people. He knew his identity, he knew his people, and he went over there and he saw this Egyptian being cruel to this Israelite, and something rose within him, and he thought, this is wrong, and he killed the Egyptian, And then he buries him, and whatever happens, and that's it, all good. He thinks no one's seen, that's fine, and the Israelite goes free. Then, we find him the next time he's out again, and he sees 2 Israelites fighting, 2 of God's chosen people, and he comes along and he says something to them, and he says, what are you guys doing? And they said, oh, are you going to kill us like the Egyptian? And suddenly he realizes the deed he had done has been found out, and fear grips him. And then when it comes to when his father, the Pharaoh, because he's been adopted into that family, when his Egyptian royal palace family find out, they are after him. And it says that Moses flees to the desert. This man with all those dreams, all those promises, all those God-given destinies, those wonderful proclamations, he finds himself far off in a desert place. He's away from his own palace family that he's grown up with. He's also away from his godly family, his real people, and he finds himself in a desert. And I just think it's so interesting that here he is, he's there, and he meets someone, he gets married, and his first child he names Gershom, and it means I have been a foreigner in a foreign land. So he is a foreigner in a foreign land, and he's thinking, what is my purpose? I maybe did have purpose. I've blown my chances. I have failed. I'm going to live out the rest of my life, not with my natural family, not with my adopted family, but in this foreign place. A couple weeks ago, Ian was talking about, being in the desert place, being in that place of barrenness. And I just think it's so amazing that in this place of barrenness, Moses is sitting there. He was there for many, many years. The next time we find him, he's 80 years old. He's an old man. He's been there for many, many years, nursing his failed dreams. And what I find really interesting? Moses is it says in the Bible, he was camped around Mount Sinai. He was actually there in his desert with his broken dreams, and God spoke to him. And it was actually at that Mount Sinai, when we speak about Mount Sinai, we know that's when the next time Moses is there, it's when he's led this huge company of people. It's when he has risen to his challenge. It's when he's dreaming again, and he's around there, and God speaks to him and gives him the 10 Commandments. Isn't it amazing, in your place of barrenness, your place of most pain, that God is there with you, and he's watching you, and he's waiting for the right time. And he says to Moses, you can dream again. It's okay. You might have thought you'd failed, but I have worked on you. Your character has been nurtured in this desert place. I have seen you and I have watched you, and now it's my time. And now, Moses, you are going to be the leader that your mum proclaimed over you. You are going to be the man that I have for you. And so I want to encourage you out there. Some of you have written yourselves off. Some of you don't even need other people to say wrong things into your life. You have made negative proclamations over your life. And I just wanted to say to you, when you have failed, when you have walked away, when you have found it difficult, you can dream again, because the God-given dream that's in you, the seed he has placed within you, is just still there. That seed just needs some water. It just needs some nurturing, and it'll blossom again. And so I wanted to encourage you. And you know, there is Moses, and God speaks to him at Mount Sinai from the burning bush, and he speaks to him and says, Moses, I'm calling you out. And we see Moses now, not this arrogant man who can go around and decide to kill an Egyptian if he thinks it's wrong. We see this very humble man with very little confidence, with very little self-belief, and says, God, I can do nothing. And he says, Moses, you're in the perfect place for me. You are in the absolute ideal place. I know you can't do anything, but I can do everything through you. And I want to say to everyone out there, you might think you have nothing, but God is what you need, and he will bring it to pass. God never gives up on us. In God's economy, nothing is ever wasted. Even the journey in the desert, nothing is wasted. I often think of Jochebed. When Moses came out of the palace, I bet she was around. I bet she was like, Moses, I've waited. This is going to be amazing. And then when this happened and he went away, he never saw his mom again, because he comes back as an old man. He comes back as an 80-year-old. And God says, go and find Miriam, go and find Aaron, and talk to them. Jochebed never saw the future. Jochebed was part of God's eternal plan, but she never saw the liberation. She died in Egypt. She died along with many others in Egypt, but she was faithful to what God had given her. She was faithful to the word God had given her, to raise this baby, to speak life into this child, and that this child would fulfill the destiny that God had given them. And so I just want to say to those of you out there with prodigal children, you continue to pray over them. You still be that father to look down the road for that prodigal coming back, because the prodigals will come back. The prodigals will come back. That's what it says, if we pray and if we never give up. They may not come back in our time, but they will come back if we continue to pray and we continue to be faithful to the calling God has. Because even though they're prodigals, the seed of greatness is still within them. The God dream that is subdued at the moment is still within them, and God wants to nurture that and bring it back. And something, there is always a way back, and I just think that's so exciting from the story of Moses. So if you have ever failed, if you ever think that you're past redemption, you're just a lost cause, that God couldn't use you, remember that God has a dream and a purpose and a plan after failure to dream again. So be encouraged. The second thing I wanted to speak about is what happens when your dream actually dies. What happens when your dream dies and you have a lot of life to live? What happens when life is really good and it's all planned out, and then suddenly your dream dies? And I'm thinking of what happens in that dream job you have, and suddenly you get that redundancy notice, and I'm sorry, this is it. Pack your bags, you're done. What happens when you're engaged to be married to this lovely man, and suddenly the engagement is called off and you are absolutely devastated? All your hopes and dreams for the future are just cut short. What happens when your house burns down and you've got nothing left? What happens when your spouse suddenly dies, or you have a life-changing, a life-altering accident? What happens when you get that prognosis? Or what happens when you're carrying a baby and then you miscarry, and all the hopes and dreams you had of that baby have gone? In just an instant, you start bleeding and you think it's over. What happens? And I just want to say to you that God is never surprised when the dreams that we thought were for eternity, that we thought were for our lives, when those dreams come to an end, they never take God by surprise. He never gets surprised and thinks and looks at life's curveballs and go, wow, didn't see that coming. The Lord is not like that. He sees, but he also has a plan after the death of your dream. And I just wanted to look at a wonderful woman in the Bible. There's only 2 or 3 verses about her, but I can't wait to speak to her in the Bible. Her name is Anna. And it says in Luke chapter 2, and I'm just going to read these few verses, there was a prophetess called Anna who was also in the temple court that day. She was from the Jewish tribe of Asher. Anna was an aged widow who had been married only for 7 years before her husband passed away. After he dies, she chose to worship God in the temple continually. For the past 84 years, she was working and worshiping in the temple of God night and day, praying and fasting. And so when Simeon was there, and Simeon is prophesying over baby Jesus, and Mary and Joseph are there, and then it says, Anna walked in, and she burst forth with a glorious great chorus of praise to God for the child. And from that day forward, she told everyone in Jerusalem who was waiting for the redemption that of the anticipated Messiah, that Jesus had come. You know, Anna was a beautiful lady. And you know, she must have been married around the age of 14, as was usually typical in those days when they were married. It says that she was only married for 7 years when her husband died. It doesn't mention that she has children, but we assume that she probably didn't have children in those 7 years. She must have had all the dreams of, I've got married, I'm going to build a house, I've got children, I'm going to have children, and then suddenly her husband dies. But you know, God had a plan for Anna. God had one of the most amazing plans. He kept Anna and Simeon, these elderly people that thought their best was over, but God kept them for the best. They were going to be the ones that were proclaiming that Jesus was a Messiah. In walks Mary and Joseph. They're carrying this little bundle. They know who Jesus is, but no one else knows who Jesus is. It hasn't been confirmed to anybody. They're just carrying this dream. They haven't whispered it to anyone. It was confirmed through the angels when they came and saw. But again, no one else knows about it. Those shepherds all have gone away. They knew about it, but they've gone now. And they walk in with their little baby, and suddenly these 2 elderly people whose life was almost over, they're the ones God chooses to dream again, to prophesy again, to speak again. And I just wanted to say that there is life after, when your dream dies, the dream that you thought was your whole life. When that dream comes to an end, God gives fresh dream, fresh vision. And you know, I just think of Anna. You know, I presume that she had no children because it says she lived in the temple. If she had had children in those days, and even now in the third world countries of this world, you know, when you have children, your children are your pension plan. And when you get older and you can't work, your children will look after you. They will take care of you. They're your pension plan. But Anna is found in the temple. And she lived in the temple, prayed in the temple, fasted in the temple. And I think she was fed by the temple. And I think people would have given some money to her. She would have eaten from the tables in the temple. Anna was totally dependent on the Lord. But her dream was a different dream. It wasn't going to be of marriage. It wasn't going to be of children and grandchildren that she might have dreamed. But she was in the right place at the right time. She was praying. She was praying into the temple. She was praying John the Baptist's arrival. She was praying Jesus' arrival. She was praying for the fulfillment of the Messiah. And I just wanted to encourage you with that, you know. When your dream goes, you know, and when we find her, there's Jubaidi. Was she 84 years widowed, or was she 84 years in the temple? We're not sure. But whatever it is, she's either 84 years old, some commentaries say, or she's 105. Can you imagine 105, that she is going around telling everybody about Jesus, that God is using her to prophesy, using her to proclaim, and I just love that. And you know, although her dream had died when her husband died, our Creator creative, wonderful Heavenly Father, He has a plan. And He is never surprised when things go wrong. And He is the great I am. And I want to say to you, He was the I am for Moses, and He was the I am for her. He says, I am your healer, I am your comforter, and I am your dream giver. And if your dream has died, seek God, because He has plans for you. He doesn't leave us without plans and purpose. You know, I was thinking the story I thought modern day that would have best illustrated this would have been Joni Erickson Tada. You know, as a young 17-year-old girl, she was the third girl of a family. She was having so much fun. She was out diving into one of these rock pools, and she dove in. You know the story. She broke her neck and she became a quadriplegic. She thought her life was over. Yes, her running days were over, her skipping days, her cycling, her bike days were over. She thought everything was over. But God had a different plan. He was going to use the disability. He was going to use the fractured dreams that she had to create and stir up a new destiny and a new plan. And I was looking it up, and it says today, Joni Erickson, she is internationally known as a mouth artist. She is a talented vocalist, a radio host, an author of 17 books, and an advocate for disabled people worldwide. At first, Joni struggled to accept God's design of her paralysis. But God had a dream fulfilled within her, and now she says she wouldn't swap her wheelchair if the Lord gave her the opportunity. She is happy with that because God has given her so much opportunity. You know, if she hadn't had that accident, we would never know the 17-year-old girl called Joni Erickson. But because of that, God said, let me draw back the curtains, Joni. Let me show you my plan for you. Let me show you that you're going to be an advocate for the disabled. You're going to be the voice for those who have no voice. You're going to speak up for those who have nothing. And it's sometimes through accidents, sometimes through failure, sometimes through the death of the dream we had, that God then reveals the dream He has. So never stop dreaming. And the third thing I wanted to conclude with is choose to dream again. Dreaming new dreams. We never ever get past dreaming new dreams. God always has God-given dreams for us. God-given dreams will require us to just not say what do you have. We have to look within. For a God dream, we have to look within and say, He has placed within you everything you need. He said to Moses, Moses, what is in your hand? I've just got a staff, Lord. You're going to use that to lead my people. So what is in your hand? What is in your heart? What is it that God has been stirring up with you over lockdown? What has He stirred up and reminded you of? Because He's not going to ask you to go and do another degree or ask someone to speak into your life. He's going to use what you have. He said to the little boy, what do you have? He says, well, I just have a packed lunch of 2 fish and 5 loaves. I'll use it, he says. And that's what God says. God-given dreams are not about what someone else will give me. It is about how faithful I am with what God has given me. Can I say that again? God-given dreams are not about what other people will give us and what other people will do for us. It's what we will be faithful in utilizing what God has given us. It's being faithful in the little. God-given dreams are for His kingdom. What dreams are you dreaming? We're standing here. Really, we should name this church the Dream Center, but I know there is another Dream Center in LA. But this is beyond our wildest dreams. How exciting that standing here in a building that is beyond our dreams, that I'm speaking about dreams. It's wonderful. It's amazing. Change is likely to occur when we realize that we can change. And when we change things, change is possible. We have to change our mindset. We have to sometimes change the way we think. We have to sometimes change the way we speak. We have to change the way we declare things. And we know that when we change our mindset, God says, right, you're ready. I'm ready to work with that dream that I've birthed in you that needs to come forth. Realize and declare that you can change, that you can change the way you are. Circumstances can change. Get out of the rut you're in. Ian was talking about ruts on Sunday. You know, this rut you're in of, I'm not good enough. Get out of that rut, change the way you think, and don't accept the limitations that you place in yourself, and don't accept the limitations that others people place in you. And you know, I just wanted to conclude, because I know my time is coming to an end here, that you know, we all will encounter bad experiences of life. Bad experiences in life, and sometimes difficult experiences in marriages, in friendships. We sometimes can get hurt by church. But never, never, never give in to the whisper that says to stop dreaming, okay? I have a lovely illustration of Mark Twain, and Mark Twain says, if you get a little cat and a cat sits on a hot cooker, a hot stove, the cat will never, ever, ever sit on a hot cooker again. He will remember that the cooker was hot. But the sad thing is, the cat will never, ever sit on a stove again. He won't ever sit on a cold cooker again, because inside that little cat's psyche and mentality is, that has given me pain and I will never do it again. And I want to say to you girls out there, if you have failed at dreams, and if you have found yourself in a difficult place, don't be like the cat that thinks, I'm not going to try again, I'm not going to risk again, okay? God can allow you, God gives you the space to risk again, to dream again, and to try again. So don't think to yourself, I've done that, tried it, never doing it again. No, take that pride, drop it down, and pick up humility and say, God, if you will use me, I'd love to dream again. I'd love to do that again. And you know, I just wanted to say, you know, seasons come and seasons go. Just 2 or 3 days ago, we moved from the summer season into the autumn season. And it says in Genesis 8:22, as long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease. Seasons come and seasons go. There are seasons for these dreams, then those seasons end, and there's new seasons for new dreams. You know, and I was just thinking, you know, many years ago we went on holiday, and we went to visit an old pastor that had been a wonderful pastor I'd known in Kabul, Afghanistan. He had been the original missionary there who had done so much for the country and bringing the gospel there. And you know, I went to visit him. He was an old man now, him and his wife. They live in a retired village, and they lived in California. And when we went to visit him, I had all my little children with me, and my husband was there. I just wanted them to be in his presence. His name was Christy Wilson. And, you know, I was there, and he said to me, can I tell you what happens in this place? And this was a little retirement place. The place was full of missionaries from Iran, from Asia, from South America, old pastors that were past their sell-by date. But he said, this place is alive. On Monday, the missionaries who served in Asia, we all get together and we all pray for Asia. And on Tuesday, we all pray for South America. Those missionaries lead us. And on Wednesday, we pray for Europe. And on Thursday, we pray for the churches of America. Do you see that in their old age, their hands didn't work anymore, their feet didn't work, but their hearts, they were dreaming new dreams in retirement. They were dreaming and prophesying and declaring into their old mission fields, their old battlegrounds, their old places where they had worked. They were there praying and banging on heaven's doors and saying, God, will you bring revival in these countries? And I was so overwhelmed, and I never forgot that experience, that these missionaries are dreaming and praying. Some of them will never leave that retirement home, but their prayers can leave, and their prayers can go to places they can never go to. So I just wanted to finish with that, and I just wanted to finish with this wonderful verse that we declare, and we declared over this building and over you. Ephesians 3:20, and I think it's from the Passion Translation. Never doubt God's mighty power to work in you and to accomplish all of this. He will achieve infinitely more than your greatest request, your most unbelievable dream, and exceed your wildest imagination. He will outdo them all, for his miraculous power constantly energizes you. So whether you think it's a failed dream, whether you think it's the death of a dream, whether you think the dream is too overwhelming and you don't know what to do with it, learn to dream again, girls, okay? Because we serve a God who exceeds the most unimaginable dream. And I just want to say to you, keep dreaming. And I'm excited to see the seeds from this season of lockdown, this season of releasing those dreams, this season of allowing God's humility to wash over us, to say, Lord, what's in my hand, and I'll use it. Thank you so much, girls, for listening. And we're going to just stop just now. And I think I'm going to be going on to Instagram. So give me 2 or 3 minutes to get myself ready. I'm going to go into Instagram. We're going to have a little conversation with Ashlyn. And I think this will probably be our last conversation, because next week we will be in this room and we'll be able to have conversations together. God bless you. Have a great week. Go on to Instagram and, put in some comments. If you have any questions, we'll see if we can answer them. God bless you. Have a great day. Keep dreaming.